Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support as always. Hope you guys are having a good morning. I got my coffee and we're off, man. We got my IS-3A bottom tier in a 3-tier battle. We are here on Studzianki, Studsdorf. And I'm headed down to the south looking to get into the ravine. Let's pause it. Pause for a sip of a nice French roast. Okay, we've talked a lot about positioning and reacting to the battles. It's been a significant topic of my coaching. It's been a significant topic of the channel, and from the comments I'm getting quite a bit. Everyone's kind of trying to figure this out. It's always going to be a work in progress, but we've had a bunch of big changes lately, and the game is a little more campy lately. So we've got the COVID hermit thing. All right, COVID for the last year and a half, people coming back to the game, maybe not as experienced. New players coming from Steam, potentially, in there as well. The HE changes, the artillery changes, there seems to be less of it. Very interesting, and I'm not really sure how it's all going to shake out, but I will say that things tend to be a little campier. So when you're initially looking at the loadout of the two teams, and where you're going to go in terms of the critical terrain, you've got to be willing to change your mind or adjust fires. So I like to get into the ravine down here in the south, right? You've seen me do this a bunch of times. The problem with that is it is an overextended position if you're the only guy that piles in and 3 or 4 of them pile in with you. Also, you can take hits going in front of the church out into the open for that little run into the ravine. How fast are their tanks? How fast is your tank? Taking a look at the two loadouts of the teams. Are you going to be the first guy through the hole? Look at this. Camp, 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 camp. Camper, camper, camper. Okay? We do have 2 guys. Look at these 2. They're headed, I don't know where, into the back. So my intention is to go to the critical terrain. I would love to get into the ravine. I'm already sensing that that's not going to be a player. And these are all the things I'm thinking about. Also, I look at the loadouts of the teams, and there's a lot of TDs. I mean, maybe their 263 is aggressive and gets into the ravine. Unlikely the rest of them, if you just take a look at them. Yeah, potentially a WZ-120 if he's crazy. But you would not expect the Sturv to jump in the ravine. You would not expect to lose the race to the T-95, although he may eventually show up. You would not expect the other Sturv, the top or the bottom Sturv, to get into the ravine. What does that leave? Well, Type 5, I'm probably going to beat him. There's a 103, there's a T10, there's a Char Future, there's a T54, a TL1 LPC. Every one of those could beat me or meet me there. All right, this is an okay speed tank, the IS-3A, the tank that destroyed the game. But I didn't show it all. I got a little bit delayed at the spawn because there was a Type 4 or 5, whichever one it was, next to me, and I had to go around. So I've taken all these things into account, and as I approach this critical terrain here in this ravine, I'm thinking I'm not going in. Because even if I pile through right now, what do I have? Well, I've got an E-75 camping in the back. I don't know why the 277, this guy's not a very good player. He's way out in the open. His approach is terrible. He's very lucky he doesn't take a hit, and we'll see if he does. I think he does eventually. The E-50 is kind of hot on my heels, but I don't feel like, and there's an IS-3A already in there. What does that tell me? Well, he had a more direct route, even though he's the same speed as I am. So that means anything faster than him can be with him or nearby, and that sealed the deal. I'm not going in. I'm not going to go through. Watch what the 277 does. He provides more information. I thought he was just going to go, but he goes parks and then eats a big shot. 547 is an interesting damage number. 547 is an interesting damage number. The only tank I can see with that speed looks to be the Object 263. I'd be very surprised if any other tank on that list. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what it looks like to me, that the 263 has raged up forward and he's nearby. And I certainly don't want to go try to pile in there now. So from here, the initial assessment, I think I've made a decent one. And I'm thinking, all right, what do I do with this? You know, it's one thing to say, all right, I was more or less right. We weren't able to take the ravine right there. I don't have a whole lot of help. Yeah, it's one of our tier 10s. Here comes the Type 4. That's nice. Some snipers in the back. The E-50 is kind of hanging out back there as well. And then look at the 3 clowns. The WT I would expect to be doing that. The 257 and the Panther II, that's sort of painful to watch, but you've got to take that into account. That's what I have. It's not the match I want, it's the match I have. So we're going to try to react to this. And I don't want to tuck up against the church right there. It's a decent spot, and we just killed their Type 5, which is nice. It's a decent spot, but if they come up and tuck up against it and proxy light it, I'm not going to be able to move or go anywhere. In fact, I might have a hard time getting away. So I start thinking about, what if I could get across over to the right here a little bit, over to the north. First, I'm going to go to this hard cover, and we'll see if these guys are foolish enough to poke up and give us some shots. And that's a pretty strong position for them. So let's see if this TL1 LPC overcommits. It already misses them. Also, one of the really interesting things about this game right now that I'm seeing is that there's only a T10 being shown right now over in the factory. And one of the problems with where the Type 4 and the Object 277 is, or if I want to move up into this area over here, these buildings to my right, is getting shot from the factory. But if you look at the Skoda going around in the factory, the R263 and everything that's going on over there, I feel like they don't have a lot over there. So we're going to go ahead and hang out here for just a little bit. If you hear some smashing in the background, that's the problem with having a home office. The dog has decided it's time to knock the bone across the wood floor. So that is her little game while I record. I think she knows. As soon as I start recording, she starts chucking that thing across the wooden floor, making a racket. The Sturv has moved up. That was a surprise, but he's also getting hammered for it. And there he goes. He's gone. TL1 LPC, the IS-3A is in the middle. The T10 is still fighting over on this side over there, and we've got a 2,000 hit point advantage. I see now the T95's moved up. Now that the 103 makes a grave error, and I'm able to put 2 shots into him. I eat some Arty. That clears out my cover. I'll just kind of shoot that as I go, and I want to move to this hard cover. I want to avoid getting shot by the IS-3A if at all possible. And that's what I was talking about earlier. The TL1 LPC has moved up. Holy cow, the T95 is aggressive and moved up. And now the IS-3A has the spotting over there. So the 277 and the Type 4 are locked down. Not much they can do. I'm going to sit here and reload. And we'll take into account what's going on. We got 3,000 hit point advantage. We've got some guys we got to dig out of the ravine. I see that the north is actually doing really well. So to some extent, I'm in a bit of a waiting game to see how that goes up there. See if they can't create a little more leverage and pressure in the north and either draw some of these guys off or start to get some crossfires into the T95, TL1 LPC, and the IS-3A. So the enemy team's backed off of the church. They're no longer proxy lighting the Type 4 and the 277. I'm getting turned around because I'm thinking I want to go into those buildings. I'm pretty sure that was the IS-3A. When I spun around, the rear of my tank stuck out a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that's the IS-3A that saw me. He was sticking his turret up over there, spotting. So I don't want to go yet. I want to wait till I go dark. I'm sort of expecting an Arty shot. And now let's move on into this spot. What I like about this building is a couple things. It is indestructible, number one, which is nice. And it's got this little bush right here, which will help me get a little bit of camo if I'm starting to mess around with things like trying to shoot the TL1 LPC. So now my intention is to, as I'm fighting the game that I've got, is let's figure out shots. Right? I sort of sat back being kind of passive. Didn't want to run into the ravine for all the reasons that I talked about. But now I want to start working around the edges of this fight in the south and see if I can't figure out either some spotting or some shots. First obvious one is to see if this LPC is going to pop up high enough for me to see him. Very difficult for an IS-3A really to snipe, but it can be done. You saw a video of mine a while back where I was absolutely sniping the snot out of things with this. It seems to be on occasion well more accurate than it should be. Then I noticed the T95, and this is a little bit dangerous. I was just curious if he saw me, but he didn't. That's how blind those things are. Arty shot goes in. The 257's moved up, thank goodness. That's why that guy was shooting. And now we start working on this T95 who's sort of sitting in this spot. I'm going to try to track him here. Nope, not yet. I'll do it in a minute. Okay, yeah, he backs out. So he backs out. I see the T54. He's backing up onto the ridge right there. So kind of keeping an eye on him. I might have shots on him if he keeps doing such things. I see him doing it again. And I'm thinking, man, I really should go take that shot. T95 is messing around in the middle again right there. Takes a little peek. And it's just right now, all right, let's work this. Let's figure it out. We got a 4,000 hit point advantage. We've got quite a gun advantage. Pretty soon it's going to be time to move in and start putting pressure on these guys, start taking shots. I see their IS-3A move up. So what I know about that is if I can get up to these buildings right up here ahead of me, and ideally we get rid of the T-95 first, then I can start putting shots into him. We've won the factory, it appears, which is really nice. So I know the T-95 is with us. I'm pretty sure the 263 is nearby. We start to see this guy move in, so I'm just going to go for a track. That gets us a ricochet. He takes a hit. I don't want to poke, but he's kind of moving in every direction. He starts taking multiple hits. I'm going to see if we can get a shot there. There we go. He's tracked. I'm going to aim for the weak spot. I should have just put it into his side again, because now I'm on my long reload, but he ends up dying. All right, that's good. That's broken that open. Next move is to leapfrog forward into one of those buildings. I'm going to wait for a couple of my shells. I'd like to have at least 2 before I start moving up there. TL1 LPC is still messing around in the middle. I'm going to move before... Oh, no, that's not true. I thought I did move. I'm not really sure where those shots are coming from. I think the guys camping in the back are trying to knock down this building. As I said, it's indestructible. Now that I think about it, I couldn't figure it out during the game. I think it's the Panther 2 trying to knock the building down. So the guy is still camping back there. Oh, that's right. This is where I see the T-54 back up. I was actually maybe looking for a shot on the 263. So T-54 takes a hit. And we'll just hang out for a little bit. It's unfortunate that the North guys haven't really figured it out that they need to be pushing in. They're all sort of sitting back. Those are all TDs up there minus the Panther. So they're not being very active. See the LPC moving across the middle again. T-54 is being silly, so I'll just come out here and hit him once. And I don't know why he stayed. I can't tell. Yeah, it looked like, at first I thought maybe he had lost his track, but and that second shot didn't do any damage. Somebody else got the kill. And now I think I'm going to start working on the leapfrog. And this is just cleanup on aisle 2. As you can see, it's 9-2. These guys are in big trouble. Turns out their Sturv and WZ are still camping way in the back. Or if they were forward, they end up falling back pretty quickly. But we're going to find the turret of the IS-3A here. Put one into him. Cover up against the building. Looks like my guys are going to fold around and take him out and try to get out to get that shot, but he's gone. 263 is now lit and basically just folding into him. So, big reason I wanted to show this video, or show this replay and do this video, is to kind of discuss the idea of the critical terrain, but also the idea of reacting to the battle you have, not the one you want. I would have loved to have got down into that pit, but as you can see, I would have died. And I think 6 months ago, a year ago, I would have done that nearly every time, with the idea that I got to get the critical terrain, someone's got to do it. And if it was very obvious I wasn't going to get there, I wouldn't just YOLO in and die, although it tended at points to be like that, because you would see some guys following up and you would assume that they're going to help. Well, don't assume they're going to help until they prove they're going to do so. So in this case, I sat back a little bit. Now I know I'm going to probably get exposed to the WZ, and I do. And then this is just a big fat bummer. We aim in, we aim in, we aim in, and no. Complete miss. A bounce. He gets 2 shots on me. And we'll go ahead and push up forward there. He's got the back out. So as I said in the past, I would more or less YOLO in, or even if I thought I had some help, we'd go in there, and I'd get my damage, and then I'd be out of the game. So with today's game, as campy as it is, as passive as most players are, and this has always been a problem in the game, but I think it's certainly a turbo-fied at this point, is still head towards that critical terrain, but be careful about it, and then start getting creative on the angles and the places that you're going to go. Be creative in the angles, the places you're going to go. Pay attention to the rest of the map like we did here, watching and knowing that the factory was actually in good shape, and there was no real reason to get too crazy and aggressive. We'll come over here and we'll get 2 more shots into this guy. And it ends up being a win. So we come out of this thing with a kill, 2,836 damage, 812 assist, and bottom tier, right? Go to the critical terrain, but look for shots. And we did that in sort of a non-standard way from what you might expect for that position right there, but just working around it and continuing to look for shots. What I see a lot of is people will go to that critical terrain, they'll assess what's going on and go, well, I can't do that, and then there's very little thought process or idea of all right, how do I make this work? How do I get some shots out of this thing? Well, how can I maybe work around this a little different based on what's going on in the rest of the match? What can I expect from the other flank based on what I'm seeing? When can I expect timing-wise to be able to start pushing through? What are the critical tanks we have to get rid of before I can move to that next position? All those things taken into account. So I thought that was a decent example of all those things. If you got any questions, let me know down below. If you got any more comments, as always, comments, critiques. We'll have another video like this probably tomorrow or sometime in the near future. I've got another game I want to show you guys with a similar idea with the same tank on a much more open map. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you.